We're going to start the learning scriptures. Yearling Sarah Alpert in brief form. Sarah Alpert, in memory of her husband, Bella and David Adler, in memory of her father, friends of Honey Heifetz, friends of Jack Prince, friends of Sandy Davidoff, friends of Judy Cohen, friends of Dr. Annette Safransky, Gail and Leslie Kaplan, in memory of their parents, friends of Linda Katz, Lee and Harvey Greenberg, in memory of their parents, friends of Rochelle Ebner, Ike and Evelyn Blocher, in memory of his sister, a month of learning, Karen and Mel Haller, in memory of her mother, Tova and Leo Uri Zimmer, in memory of her mother and her father, Judith Michael Poretsky, in memory of her father. Week of learning, Isaac and Etta Novick, in memory of his mother, Oscar and Shelley Moll, in memory of his mother and father, Moshe and Carol Gaster, in memory of his mother, Lela Bessler, in memory of her father-in-law, Marty and Judy Engel, in memory of his mother, Judy Iger, in memory of her mother, friends of Steve Greenberg, in memory of his father. A day of learning today. In terms of Thursday, there are no individual days of learning for today. Hashem is having aliyah, crank rafia, velton kir, Hashem atzliah, l'chol b'nei Yisrael, a good gebenched yad. Okay? Okay, just again, a reminder, as the sign is up there by our refreshment stand, that as of January 31st, Sunday morning, okay, I believe we will still have our shiur here in this library. We will do, okay, tomorrow's the 31st, so it means Sunday. What? So, right, so Sunday, starting Sunday, we will need to stay in the shul for the learning, okay? All right, and look at the kitchen. That away. Okay, and therefore, so assume that Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, okay, we will need to be in the shul for the shiur, and then we will come back ideally here on Wednesday. Unless I hear from either Jus or I hear from Nadich before then, right? Okay. Not too hard to find us. What? Not too hard to find us. Well, that depends. Okay, gentlemen, I want to go back real quick, okay, to the bottom of the previous Amud. Gimel Amud Beis, the bottom, okay? All right, Amar le Rav Nechemia v'chi anash hanistarot le'olam v'halo kfar ne'amar ad olam, said the Gemara, right? So what happens, we said this was a Tannaitic dispute, right? And the Gemara went on. Ela b'kashem shelo anash al hanistarot tachlo anash al ha'onshin sheb'damui ad she'avru Yisrael et hayarden. Okay? Okay, that was what the Gemara told us, that they weren't punished even for open transgressions until they crossed the Jordan, top of Mem Daled, which is, I believe, today's daf, right? Okay. Ad kan ta'ama enush. Okay, so we're going to say that, okay, then what about the case of Achan? Okay, why was he punished? Mishum dahavu yadeh be'ishto ubana. is where we stopped yesterday, where his wife and his family knew, and therefore it was considered like a public kind of sin, right? So we're on Mem Daled Amud Aleph, the second line down in the Gemara. Okay? All right? So the Gemara says to us, Chata Yisrael, that the Jewish people sin. Amar Rabbi Abba, says Rabbi Abba Bar Zavda, the following, Afal Pi Shechata Yisraelu. Despite the fact that they sinned, they were still Jewish people. In other words, there's still a special relationship that they have with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay? So the Gemara goes on. Amar Rab Abba says, going on, this is why people say the following popular saying, Asa dekai bene chilfe, when you have a myrtle tree or branch that's among other the willows, Asa shmei, it's still known, right? Asa karule, it's still known as a myrtle, and it is still called by that name as a myrtle. Okay, so in other words, the old joke, the lion doesn't, or tiger doesn't change its stripes. Okay, that's the, okay. V'gam avru et briti asher tziviti otam gam lakhu min hacherem gam nagvu gam kachashu gam shamu b'chleihem. Okay, that's pasuk now when we're dealing back to the situation with Achan. Okay, so what happens? He not only did he blaspheme the covenant, okay, which will be discussed more in detail shortly, okay, which was commanded to them, but he also took from me booty, okay, and also he stole, also he denied, also he put it in his garments. Amar Rabbi Ilah, says Rabbi Ilah, Mishum Rabbi Yehuda ben Misparta, in the name of Rabbi Yehuda ben Misparta, Melamed she'avar Achan al chamisha chumshei Torah. This pasuk seems to imply, okay, that Achan transgressed a number of mitzvot throughout the Sefer Torah. Okay? Shene'amar chamisha, as we say, 5. Right. Okay, well, one second. How do we know it's 5? Ki chamisha gam, because the word gam is repeated 5 times in the pasuk. Va'amar Rabbi Ilah, says Rabbi Ilah, Mishum Rabbi Yehuda bar Misparta, again, citing him. What was the example? How do we interpret this pasuk? Notice one of the first things the pasuk said was avru et briti. Okay, we're going to make an association between the term covenant in that pasuk and brit milah. Okay, as we go on now. Okay, what did Achan do? Achan moshech ba'arlato haya. He would readjust the skin on his organ so that it covered his circumcision. Okay. So it looked like he wasn't. By the way, just as a quick aside, you should know that in the time of Chachamim, in the time of the Gemara, this was not an uncommon means by which some people actually tied it with the okay, but they actually tried to hide their Jewishness in this manner.
Because they ran naked like the Greeks.
Well,
so it would be evident
exactly.
They were Jewish.
The Olympics were done in the nude. Okay? So that was part of it too. Right? Okay, I'll remember that next time I watch. Okay? Advocate, right? So what happens, he says, okay, that he did that. Okay, the gam of ruat tree. It also says that he, right, was transgressing the covenant. Uktiv, hatem, and it's written there, et briti hefir. Also that apostle that tells us. Okay, namely, pshita, isn't that obvious? Mahu de tema, what do you want to tell us? Okay, the mitzvah gufe lo pakad. maybe we say that we might argue that maybe he wouldn't abandon a mitzvah that is associated with his body. Okay? So what happens? Kamash Malan comes to tell us that's not the case that he did. Okay? We go on. Another pasuk. He committed an abomination among the Jewish people. Amar Rab Abba says, Rab Abba Bar Zavda, Melamed Shaba'al Achan Na'ara Me'urasa. We say that he had relations with a betrothed woman. Okay? Katu Hacha, and it's written here, He Asa Nevala, he committed abomination. And it's written there, betrothed young woman, he astana valabi Israel, that an abomination was carried out among the Jewish people. Pshita, obvious, maudatema. What do you want to tell us? Kuli hai lo pakad nafshe. Again, maybe we would say he would not commit such a terrible abomination. Okay, wouldn't, right? Exactly. Kamashmalan comes to tell us that, again, we're saying that Achan committed all sorts of transgressions of whole different varieties. Okay? So we go on. Ravina now says, what is the result? In a sense, Dine Bena'ara, Dine Kina'ara, Amrasa, Besakle. Okay, Baskila, I'm sorry. Okay, namely, what are we saying? That the same way the law is going to apply to her for such an act, namely she would be punished by stoning, so the same way the law would be applied to him. Amar le Reish Galuta. And now we get to another little piece from the Gemara. Okay, it says the Reish Galuta, the Rav Hun. Ketiv, we have a pasuk that says, Vaikach Yehoshua et Achan ben Zarach, ve'et ha'kesef, ve'et ha'aderet, ve'et lashon hazahav, and says the Reish Galuta to Rav Huna, and he took, namely acquired, took him, okay, he's confronting him, I really want to say, okay, Achan, okay, namely regarding the silver, regarding a fancy garment, regarding Lashon HaZahav, a bar of gold, for example, Ve'et banav ve'et benotav, and he took his sons and his daughters, Ve'et shoro and his ox, Ve'et chamoro and his donkey, Ve'et sono and all his flocks, Ve'et ahalo and his tent, Ve'et kol asher lo, and all he had, all he possessed. Im hu chata, he was the one who sinned, banav benotav machatu, his sons and his daughters, what sin did they commit? In other words, why should they be considered part of the punishment? Amarle, he said to him, Ulata amayich, and he said to him, according to your line of thinking, Im hu chata, if Achan was the one who sinned, Kol Yisrael machata, what sin did the entire Jewish people do that they should all be punished? Dichtiv, why? Because it's written, V'chol Yisrael imo, and the entire nation of Israel along with him. Okay, Elas, he says, Leradotan, okay, but rather to subdue them. It says, Hachanami Kedei Leradotan. Here too, it's also to subdue them. Okay, in other words, enforce Torah law on them as well, to make the entire nation realize that they are subject to divine law. Okay, but then the pasuk says, another pasuk, Vayisrafu otam ba'esh, Vayiskalu otam ba'avanim, that they were burnt through fire, and they were stoned them through stones. And the Gemara asks, but tratai, okay, but do we say both? Both those punishments were both forms of death penalties and punishment? Amar Ravina, says Ravina. Hara'ui lisreifa. Those who were appropriate to be punished. Okay, that which was appropriate to be punished through fire would be burnt. Hara'ui l'skila. and that which was appropriate to be stoned would be stoned. Okay? But we have another pasuk that says as follows, Va'ereh b'shalal, and I would look in the booty and the plunder, okay, aderet shin'ar, that there was a garment then of Bavel, achat tova u'matayim shkalim keser, okay, it was of fine quality, okay, and also this amount of money, 200 silver, okay. Rav Amar, says Rav, itztabla the milta. Now this was a cloak, a garment of fine white wool. Shmuel Amar sarbala jitzrifa. Okay, that it was again a kind of garment that was dyed with a unique color, alum. Okay, a kind of gray. Okay,
Alum is
right,
mineral.
right. Yeah, with a mineral that would turn it that color. That's where we get the word aluminium, right? Okay, okay, exactly. All right, all right. So what happens? Vayatzi came lefnei Hashem. Okay, and another pasuk. Vayatzi came lefnei Hashem. Okay, when we say this, okay, what happens here? Okay, Amar Rav Nachman, says Rav Nachman, ba v'chabatam lefnei hamakom. Okay, it seems here that we're dealing with the question that someone cast or threw almost a challenge, I'm going to say. He threw, right, right, but the behavior was a challenge to Hashem. Okay, that's the point. Amar lefanav, he said to him,
This is Yeshua.
we're going to get to it. Okay, okay, so that it's a challenge to Hashem. Okay, Ribono Shalom, what did he say? Al elu techareg ruba shel Sanhedrin. So Hoshua, having done this, okay, making a challenge to Hashem by saying after he threw down the items, saying because of this kind of, excuse the expression, junk, okay, okay, you're going to carry out a punishment, a death penalty equal to the almost to the majority of the Sanhedrin, kill so many. Okay, we're going to get to that in a moment. Dichtiv, why? Because it's written, Vayakumehem anshe ha'ai kishloshim v'shisha ish, that he struck down among those who were involved with I, 36.
I killed
That I'll get to it. I'll get to it, Michael. Okay, that in that struggle, in that fight with the city of Ai, they killed 36. In other words, the people suffered a heavy loss in that battle and killed this significant number. Okay, Vitanya, but Braita teaches Shloshim v'shisha mamash. According to the Braita, it says there were actually 33 that were killed. 36, I'm saying, that were killed. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. Amarlo Rav Nechemia. And Rav Nechemia responds to Rav Yehuda in the following, okay? V'ki shloshim v'shisha hayu. Was it really 36 individuals? V'halo lo ne'amar ela ki shloshim v'shisha ish. But wasn't it said that it was as if it were 36 individuals? Ella ze Yair ben Menashe. Okay, but what we're talking about was the death, for example, of Yair ben Yair ben Menashe, Shashakul Keneged Ruba Shel Sanhedrin. That in wisdom, he was equivalent almost to a significant number, a significant part of the Sanhedrin. Okay, a significant number. Okay. All right. So we're going to.
36 is more than a McGowan.
36 is 1. Right. Right.
70 is the majority of these.
Okay, like him. Okay, so what happens now? Okay, Amar Rav Nachman, says Rav Nachman, Rav. In the name of Rav, the following? Okay, my dichtiv. What about the pasuk? What we have that says, okay, tachanunim yidaber rash va'ashir ya'aneh azut. Okay, poor from Mishle, right? Poor voices make supplications, but the rich may answer brazenly, of that nature. Says the Gemara, Tachanunim Yidaber Rash, the first part of the pasuk. Okay, Zeh Moshe. That refers to when Moshe might be speaking to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Va'ashir Ya'aneh Azut, and they quote, rich man may answer more strongly or brazenly. Zeh Yehoshua. That refers to Yeshua. My Tama, why is it that we apply this pasuk to Moshe and Yehoshua? Ilema mishum dichtiv. If it's because the earlier pasuk says vayatzikum lifnei Hashem, that he sort of threw them, tossed them before Hashem. Va'amar Rav Nachman, says Rav Nachman, ba v'chabatan lifnei hamakom. Why? Because we're saying that in essence, he hurled or cast down words. In other words, he challenged Kadosh Baruch Hu. Atu Pinchas, lo avdi hachi. Don't we have another example besides Moshe and Yoshua that Pinchas also did the same thing? Why? We have a pasuk that says, as it's written, V'yamod Pinchas vayipalel v'te'atzar hamagefa. Okay, that again, Pinchas was involved in a certain activity, okay, which will follow in a moment, and the plague stopped. Va'amar Rab Elazar. Okay, what happened? Says Rabbi Elazar, Vayitpalel lo ne'emar. We can't interpret the word Vayitpalel here. He's suggesting as actual tefillah, prayer by which the plague was stopped. Ella rather, Vayitpalel. What does that term mean? Milamed she'asa pelilot imkom kono. It means that he made, so to speak, arguments, okay, against the Kadosh, his creator. Ba v'chabatan lifnei hamakom. In other words, he came and cast challenges before Hashem. Amar lefanav. He said to him, Ribono shel al elu yiplu esrim ba'arba'a elef mi Yisrael. For this reason, he says, should this large number, okay, all right, 24,000 of the Jewish people be struck down? Dichtiv, why? Because the pasuk says, Vayu hametim b'magefa, that the number who died in the plague, arba'a ve'esrim elef, was 24,000. Ve'ela mehacha, but rather, what about from here? We have another pasuk. Lama ha'avarta ha'avir et ha'am hazeh et ha'yarden. Why did you bring this nation, so to speak? Okay, so in other words, now again another example of challenging Hashem. Okay, Yoshua asks the question, why did Hashem bring the nation across the Jordan? They could have stayed on the other side, theoretically. That's his implication. Wait a second, right? Okay, what happens? Wait a second, says the Gemara. We said that it was both Yehoshua and Moshe. So what about Moshe? Okay, Moshe Nami Mema. Moshe also spoke out, in a sense. Amar, what did he say? Okay, Lama Heraota La'am Hazeh. He challenged Hashem with regards to the fact that Pharaoh took away the straw and they had to build bricks again according to the previous limit, previous quota that they had to do before. So what about Moshe's challenge in that regard? Okay. Ela mehacha, but rather no, we choose the following pasuk, which says v'lo ho'ilonu v'nashev ba'ever hayadeh. That pasuk. Vayomer Hashem el Yehoshua kum lech, and Hashem told Yeshua to go up and go. Okay, what happens? Okay, Charish Rabbi Shila. Okay, and then Darish, I'm sorry. So based on that, Rabbi Shila then tried to give a drasha. Okay, so what happens? Okay, Amar le HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, says the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Shalcha kashem mishalahem. Your challenge, I'm going to freeze that in, is stronger, is worse than theirs. Ani amarti, I said to you, okay, and what the Shem said, Veheye ba'avorchem et hayardain, takimu va'atem rechkanim shishimil. I told you that after you cross the Jordan, you may then, so to speak, stand up. You may then continue. You put up what you have to do. Okay? Va'atem rechkatem shishimil. You progressed, okay, 60 mil there before you did it. Batar dinafa, okay, and after Rabbi Shila left, what happens? What did Rav do? Okim Rav Amora Ale V'darash. That Rav set up another sage, an Amora, and have him give another drasha as follows. Okay, Ka'asher Tziva Hashem et Moshe, the way Hashem commanded Moshe. All right, Avdo, his servant, Cain Tziva Moshe et Yehoshua. Likewise, Moshe commanded Yehoshua, V'chein asa Yehoshua, and thus carried out Yehoshua. Okay, Lo Heisir Davar Mikol Asher Tziva Hashem et Moshe, that he did not hesitate, did not refrain from doing all which Moshe had commanded. Okay, Im Kain, if that's the case, says the Gemara, Ma Talmud Lomar Kum Lech. Why then does it seem to say that the pasuk said to go up and do the following, which implies blame on Yehoshua? Amarle, he says as follows, Ata garamta lehem. It was you, Yehoshua, he says, that made it more difficult for the people. Okay, why? Vahainu de kamar, because we see that it's the Amarle, because he said to him, what here? Okay, Ba'ai, in regards to the city of Ai, Va'asita la'ai, u'le'mlucha, ka'asher asita le'yericho, u'malcha gomer. Okay, do to Ai what you did to Yericho. And what did Yehoshua, what did he command? Vahi b'halot Yehoshua b'Yericho. And when they had come and had the full event with Yericho, what happens? Vayisa einav vayar v'gomer. Okay, Joshua raised his eyes and he looked, right? V'amar, and he says, okay, he saw this malach. Okay, that was there. Okay, and Vayomer lo, and he says, Lo ki ani sar tzva Hashem. Okay, that the malach said he was the chief officer. Okay, of Hashem. Ata bati, and now I've come. What happened then? Okay, Vaypol Yehoshua el panav artza v'yishtachu. And Yehoshua fell on on the ground, and he bowed before this being, this angel. Hechi avid hachi, asks the Gemara. How is it possible that he acted in such a manner? V'hamar Rabbi Yochanan. But didn't Rabbi Yochanan teach already and say, Asur lo la'adam sheyitain shalom lechavero balayla chayshin and shema shedhu, that it's prohibited for a person to greet a stranger, another individual at night, lest that item, that being, actually be a demon. Okay? Shani hata. Here the case was different. Why? The ka'amarle, because the being said to Yehoshua, Ani sar tzva Hashem ata bati v'gomer, because he identified himself as the chief general officer of Hashem's, etc. So the Gemara asks, V'dilma mashakre, perhaps he was lying. Okay? But Gemire, we've learned, the lo mafke shem shamayim levatala, that even the demons don't recite the divine name just loosely, so to speak, for no reason. Okay? So we go on now to our new Amud on the top of, okay? So what happens? Okay? All right. Amarle, Emish bitaltim tamid shalbein ha'arbayim. So this is what the being, the stranger, said to him. Previously, the going to call it afternoon, previous evening, you were neglected to perform the tamid offering for the evening. And now, bitaltum Talmud Torah. Now you're paying no attention to the appropriate time for study. Okay? Eza mehen. Okay, ba. On which should you come? Which transgression? Yehoshua would ask. Are you present for? Amarle, he said to them, Atabati. Now I have come, namely for the Bitul Torah. Okay? What happens? Miyad vayelen Yehoshua balayla hahu b'toch ha'emek. Okay? And immediately a pasuk tells us, and Yehoshua that night went into the depth, into the valley, in a sense. But what we're going to see here is we're going to darshan the understanding of the word emek, and I point out note number 6 on Art Scroll if you have that. Va'amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, milamed shelan ba'umka shel halacha. What does it do? It teaches us that when he went, he intensified and sat in the study, the depths of halacha. Okay? Amar Shmuel bar Unyas, he says, Mishmei de Rav, in the name of Rav. Gadol Talmud Torah yoter mi hakravat midim. Okay? This seems to teach us that greater is the value of Torah study than even of offering the Tamid offering. Why? Shene Amar, as he said, Ata bati, now I have come. Okay? Implying the following. Okay? That is its significance of Talmud Torah. Amarle, and he said, Abaye le Rav Dimi. So Rabbi says to Rav Dimi on one of his trips, and he comes back, Hai Kra. Okay, this particular pasuk, B'ma'arava, in the west, namely in Eretz Israel, B'ma'i mokmitule. How do they establish it, interpret it? Okay, citing a pasuk, the following, Al teitzei lariv, okay, maher, pen ta'aseh, ba'achrita b'chavalim, b'hechlim, otach re'ach. Okay, that pasuk. Okay, go not for. I didn't finish the whole pasuk. Riv et re'ach v'sod, right? Acher al tagel, right? Go not forth hastily to strife, for what wilt thou do in the end thereof when the neighbor hath put thee to shame? Debate thy cause with thy neighbor, but reveal not the secrets of another. Okay, that's the Cincino's translation. Okay, B'sha'ah she'amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu liYechezkel. Okay, we have another example. Says the at the time that Hashem spoke to Yechezkel, Lech emor lahem liYisrael, go and speak to the Jewish people. Okay, right. What do we have here? Avicha, all right. Ha'emori v'imcha ha'chiti. Okay, your father was an Amorite, your mother was a Hittite. Okay, so what happens here? Ruach Paskonit. Okay, so what happens? Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, so what happens? Right before the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Ribanosh, right? Okay, so is he trying to humiliate them? Okay, Ribano Shalalam. Okay, Im Yavo Avraham v'Sarah v'Yamdu lefanecha. If Abraham and Sarah were to come before you, he says, Ata omer lehem umachlim otam. You're going to come and by saying that, humiliate them by saying the Jewish people's origins were totally different. Okay, Rivcha riv et re'echa. Okay, v'sod acher al tagel. The second part of the pasuk.
Umi itle rishuta kuli hai. And do they really have this, so to speak, permission for all of this? And yes, the Amar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina, he says basically, Shalosh Shemot Yeshlo. He had three names. Piskim, okay, Itmun, okay, or Piskon, right? Right? The angel. Right. Yes, the Malach had three names, and then it's going to define them. Piskon, Itmon, Sigron. Okay, what do those stand for? Piskon, okay, the one who's the closer, so to speak. Sheposek Dvarim Klape Malach. Okay, that he closes his pleas on behalf of Israel, and no other can come after it to plead with Hashem. That's one. Okay, Itmon, the second. She'otem avonoteim shel Yisrael. Okay, that in this case, okay, we say that he basically, okay, well, I was going to say, phrase it a little differently, that he presents and argues about the sins of the Jewish people. Okay, so grown, okay, kevan shesoger shuveno poteach. And here again, once he finishes his pleas, once he argues on behalf of the Jewish people, once he closes, okay, no other being, no other angels can come back and argue after him. Okay, so what we see here, okay, now, okay, Aruch Shoach Lo Batzad, okay, he closed, right? So we said that. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Olam Yakdim Adam Tfilah Letzara. Rabbi Eliezer learns a person should always advance his prayer first before a difficult, okay, a troublesome time. She'ilmale lo hikdim Avraham Tfilah Letzara, were it not that Abraham did not proceed prayer, preface prayer before a difficult time, Bein Beit El ubein I, right? Right, between whether Beit El or Beit I, lo nishtayer mi v'she'ei Yisrael sarid upalit. There would be no one left, okay, from the wicked ones of the Jewish people at any amount, so to speak. Okay, even a survivor.
Talking about the Jewish people.
Earlier, prayed in that spot where the battle would die,
Okay.
and he therefore minimized the
He had
effects
raised
of
an
the
Mizbeach,
battle
he
on the
built an
Jewish
altar,
Right.
Beit El and Ben Ai.
240 in Egypt. This was a few years before that.
Okay.
And round was out.
All right. Okay. We go on. Okay. Reish Lakish Amar, Kol ha'me'ametz atzmo b'tfilah, one who puts extreme effort into his prayer. Okay. Milamata. Okay. Below. Ein lo tsarim milamala. He will then not have troubles above. Okay. In heaven. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, he says, La'alam yivakesh adam rachamim, shehiyu hakol me'amtzin et kocho. Okay, according to Rabbi Yochanan, that a person should always, okay, seek out mercy, okay, so that all, namely the divine heavenly host, the angels, will put their efforts into the power of his prayer and guarantee its fulfillment. Va'al yiyu lo tsarim milamala, and therefore he would not have troubles suffering above. Okay? A new piece from our Mishnah. Minayin shekiper lo viduya v'chule. How do we know that Achan's confession resulted in his kapara, in his atonement, in his, what was the term he used?
Going to Olam Haba.
How do we know that
For kapara.
that the murderer was
In
about
his
to be executed?
repudiation.
And his right, that he was, his atonement was accepted, and okay,
By
etc.
repudiating.
Right? Tanu Rabbanan, says the Braita, Okay, minayin shekiper lo v'yadav shenamar. How is that? Why shenamar, as it says, vayomer lo Yehoshua. And Yehoshua said to him, Mama, okay, echard, ma achartanu. How is it that you ruined us? We said, Ya'archa Hashem hayom hazeh. That Hashem will ruin you, bring you ruin at this day. Hayom hazeh ata achor. This day you will be ruined. Ve'iyah ta'achor le'olam haba. But you will not be ruined in the world to come. Okay, note the number 29 is worth marking in art school. Okay, uchtiv, and it says as well, uvenei zarach, zimri ve'etan, ve'heman, ve'chilkel, ve'darda, kulam chamisha. Okay, citing this pasuk, right? Okay, what is it? My kulam chamisha. Why these five? Kulan chamisha hen le'olam haba. That these five individuals, even though they behaved in inappropriate manners in this world, they still, nevertheless, had a place in the world to come. Right?
I'm sure that four of them were superstars, and was a bad guy because we were waiting at the opera. Yet he made the cut also.
Well, but
We saw that Zimri did some very many.
right, we're going to get to that in a moment. Okay? All right? So what is it? Right? So ktiv, it's written Zimri, uktiv achan. We write that it refers in this pasuk, okay, in this text. It said all of these, including Zimri, found a place in the world to come, but it's written Zimri and it's written achan. Ravu Shmuel, Chad Amar Achan Shmo. One said Achan was his real name. Okay, Velama Nikra Shmo Zimri. And why was he, so to speak, used? Why did they use the name Zimri applying to him? Sha'asa Ma'aseh Zimri. That he did licentious acts similar to Zimri. Okay? V'chad Amar Zimri. And one said his name was Zimri. Okay? Right? Shmo Velama Nikra Shmo Achan. And then why was his name Achan? She'achran avonotehen shel Yisrael. Okay? That he caused ruin, okay, or defeat to the entire Jewish people. By the way, just your comment about the names, okay, even today in American history, what do we do sometimes if we want to refer to somebody as a traitor? We use the name Benedict Arnold.
Oh, he's a Benedict Arnold, so he's like
Okay, so I'm saying the fact that they may have committed
that is the same.
the same act, okay, they use a, all right, so that's,
They label him by the guy who did it.
okay. All right. Im eno yodea lehitvadot v'choli. And then we were told if he doesn't know how to confess, what is he supposed to say? Right? Okay, as we begin to finish up, Rabbi Yehuda says as follows. V'chule linkot atzman, in order to clear himself before the public. Right? V'inku atzman, so let him clear himself before the public, suggests the Gemara. Kedei shelo hotzi la'az al batei dinim ve'al ha'idim. But we don't permit him to just give any kind of defense like that, clearing
If he
himself.
clears
Okay,
himself,
because what's going to happen is that this will bring a
Disrepute on the
lack of trust in the court and in the witnesses. Tanu Rabbanan, says the bright. Ma'aseh ba'adam echad, sheyotzei lehereg. Okay, a person went out. Okay, yatsa lehereg, he went out to kill. Okay, amar im yesh bi avon. Okay, as in the example of somebody intended murder. If I have committed an act, a sin, ze lo tihe mitati kapara l'chol avonati. That this won't be that my death won't be an atonement for this sin.
for all my sins.
Right? For all the sins. V'im ein bi avon zeh, and if I have not committed this particular act, this particular sin, Tehei mitati kapara l'chol avonotai. Okay, then let this my death be an atonement for all of my sins. Okay, ubeidin v'chol Yisrael menukin, and the court and the Jewish people all will be innocent or clean. V'ha'edim lo tehei lehem mechila le'olam, and the witnesses will not have any sign, any reason for seeking forgiveness forever. Okay. Okay. Ukeshesham'u chachamim b'davar, but when the sages heard this language of confession, amru, they said, okay, what did they say to him? La hachziro, okay, that they would say to bring him back. Efshar, to bring him back, it's not possible. Shekfar nigzara gzera, because the sentencing has already occurred. Ele yehoreg, but rather he should be put to death. V'yehe kolar talui b'tzavar edim, and there should be a collar, so to speak, a iron necktie put on noose, put on the neck of the witnesses.
So
In other
looks
words,
like they might have been wrong.
exactly. That's clearly the implication, right? Pshita. Isn't that obvious? Okay. Kol kamine. So what then are we trying to derive from this? Okay. Make a note, by the way, next to number 43. We're going to get to another piece in the Gemara. I'm not going to explain because of time the whole story, but Art Scroll gives you like a page, not a whole page and a half, but an extensive discussion, okay, of why the Gemara cites this story in regards to this tax collector.
The whole,
Okay.
basically the whole inside.
Hmm. So what happened? And I'm sure Rashi, they derived it from Rashi. Okay. Lo tzricha, he says, why? Okay. Dekahadre bahosahade. Why here? Because we're saying the witnesses recanted. Okay. V'chi hadade baho mai ave. And even if they recanted, what's the result? What's any benefit? Kevan shehigid shuv eino choser umagid. Once they present their testimony, they can't take it back, so to speak. They can't swallow it back. Lo tzricha. No, we needed this. Okay, why? Da'af al gav. Deka yahave ta'ama lemiltayu. Because even we say that we have reasoning for this, for their statements. Ki hava ma'aseh debai michse. Because this was very similar to the occasion, to this incident that happened in regards to, okay, Baya, the tax collector.
Where God
Okay.
straightens it out in
Okay.
the end.
Where basically, as I said, I suggest if you have Art Scroll, look at it. It gives, based on Rashi, the whole lengthy story as to what the tax collector did. Okay, I'm going to stop. Okay, there was a mix-up in funerals, basically, and as a result, okay, the sage, the sage comes back to him and explains to him, what I got in heaven is good, but what that other guy, even though he got the fancy funeral, you should see what happens to him down there. That's what the story is. Okay, and we'll continue tomorrow with the mission. Okay. Mel.
Yeah.
Are you going to be home this afternoon?
Mistama, yeah.
What? I will call before bringing this item over to you.
Okay.
Okay? All right, gentlemen. Have a good day. Yes.
Okay.
Hi. I'm coming.
Ah, this is the switch. Feel pressure.
עבודה קשה. פה מתפעמים, פה עבודה בקשה.
Get it out of the park.